What's up, real MVPs? Ricky Widmer here, and welcome in to another edition of MVP Games Live right here on either twitch.tv or YouTube at MVP Entertainment. I am joined, as I always am, with my beautiful co-host, Soapy Muffin.
Hey.
So, Soapy, how's your Monday doing? Starting a new week. Thanksgiving is over, so whether you were a ham eater or a turkey eater or a steak, I saw some people eating steaks on Thanksgiving.
That's a little too far.
Got a little fatter over the weekend, so I gotta ask you, how you doing after your? I know I've talked to you since then, but how you doing after the holiday week, the short week for us, come back to work for the show on Monday today?
I'm doing pretty good. You may be able to tell in my voice I'm a little sick. Again, I got a little stuffed nose.
Can't have the COVID.
Yeah, I don't have COVID, but at least I hope to God it's not. If my only two symptoms I get is a stuffed nose and like my throat being a little scratchy, then that's sad.
I'll be completely.
Like, come on, you gotta go big or go home.
You gotta go big or go home. If I'm gonna have COVID, I better have the real symptoms, not just the little itty bitty ones. But I had. Not a scare, but it's one of those things where I hate this time of the year for me, especially this year with COVID, because as it gets colder, the basement where I sleep gets drier. So I will wake up with like phlegm and a cough. And every time I have woken up with that cough, it's been like, all right, is this a phlegm cough or is this a COVID cough? Thankfully, not a COVID cough, as I don't have COVID also. But we got a jam-packed show for you guys today. Actually, a new idea that we're going to do for Mondays. This is coming from the big wrinkled brain, not the smooth brain, the wrinkled brain of Soapy. And I'll get into it after we do some housekeeping, some quick ones. Number one, if you are not in the Discord, the MVP Discord, the best community on the internet, you got to get on that. Either link down below in the description if you're on YouTube, !Discord into Twitch chat. Get you that link. Like I said, it is the best community on the internet. If you want to support us, patreon.com/MVPvids is how you do that. Make sure to check out patreon.com/MVPvids. Same thing. Soapy put it in the Twitch chat for you, !Patreon does that for you. Link down below if you were on YouTube, if you want to support us. We're on Twitch every Monday through Friday, twitch.tv/MVPvids, but we're also on YouTube at MVP Entertainment as well. And Soaps, this is an idea that you threw out today, and I was like, you know what? There was a part of me that was like, I like it, because I had two questions for you. I had one, did you want to do this for today, or do you want to start this up next week, because it'll be a Monday thing that we do. And then number two, I was like, well, do you have a topic for today? And you delivered on both of those answers. Thank you. But the way Soapy lined it up is we're going to call them Mold Breaker Mondays. And mainly because, let's be honest, like the news cycle, maybe it's because COVID and the pandemic, and we're hitting that time of the year where the gaming news kind of just stops, except for like game reviews and stuff like that. But every Monday, instead of diving into the game news like we usually do, we're going to have a different gaming topic for you. And that's why we're calling it Mold Breaker Mondays, because it's breaking up the mold that we usually have for the show. So today, Soapy has a topic for us. Soapy, I'm going to let you kind of take this one over and set up what we're talking about. Because like I said, this is coming from your brain, not my brain. But for the first Mold Breaker Monday, today, a momentous day on November 30th, what's today's topic for the show? Mold Breaker Monday, November 2020.
All right, so today's topic is like pet peeves in gaming. Basically, just kind of things that, rustle your jimmies a little bit whenever it comes to gaming. Just general annoyances, things that people do, things that happen in games, possibly even things just with the gaming industry in general that kind of is just like, oh, why are you doing that? So I'll introduce at least my first one. This is a super minor one, like to a lot of people. It's not like OCD, but I don't know why I get so frustrated when a game, like if I'm playing a computer game or something, if the movement keys are not WASD, I don't know why my brain is just like, I just can't function. I can't do this anymore.
I mean, it's because it's ingrained into your head of like, I come to a keyboard, not even playing a game, even if I'm typing, and my fingers go to A, W, and D are where my fucking 3 fingers automatically go to.
Yeah. And it's something that, like, I've seen some people use the arrow keys, which those work as well. Like, that one's more like of for me, and it's mostly because a lot of games also use a mouse as well. So I'm like, how do you use the arrow keys? And
I could see the arrow keys if you're a lefty. Like if you're one of those people that's a lefty mouse user and a righty keyboard user.
yeah, but I've seen people who are a righty mouse user that play MOBAs and stuff like that, and they don't even have like a gaming mouse where they can like hotkey the buttons to the side of it. Yeah. So I'm like, how do you guys play this game? Because your hand's all the way down here on the bottom of the keyboard. Like, for instance, the main one, Smite, is one of my friends. He showed me what his configuration is for his buttons on his keyboard, and he's like, oh, yeah, I use the arrow keys, but I still use, like, 1, 2, 3, 4 for my abilities. I'm like, are you an actual crackhead?
I mean,
I was like, how the fuck do you play the game? That's what I'm wondering, because you have to aim with the mouse. Yeah. I still don't know how he plays. Like, that blows my mind, still to this day.
I'm looking at my keyboard, and, like, you would like, the movement, that it's, like, one of the things that, for me, is, I know Dave, during our WoW career, has gotten mad at me for this, or kind of has been like, I don't understand it. But it's how I am is, so I've got my, if you guys watched the last WoW stream, you guys saw kind of like my hotbars at the bottom, and how I have it is the bottom row is just 1 through the equal sign at the top of the keyboard. Then the row above it is just shift and all of that. But for some of them, to where it's like when I get to 6, 7, 8, 9 on the keyboard, instead of moving my hand from WASD, I will click everything. Like, I will move and click my mouse. And I've had so many conversations, I know Dave has mentioned a couple times, where it's like, why don't you just get better with the key bindings, and then you don't have to waste your time moving the cursor to click different things, to where it's like, I'm like, I don't know, it's how my brain works and how it's wired.
Yeah, and it's something like that as well with hotbars. For me, I know that's kind of like a hot button issue for some people, of where I've brought it before the show, of where, for instance, like with certain games, and this is a really stupid one, mind you.
Yeah.
When I play Minecraft, or I watch someone play Minecraft, if I see their like hotbar in a certain way, I get like genuinely frustrated. I'm like, how? Why? Why is that there? That's not important. Why is that there? Soapy
starts judging them.
Dude, I get really judgmental with hotbars. I don't know why. Like, okay, so for instance, this is basically, you know, I almost said how the sausage is made. This is more or less of how Soapy plays Minecraft.
Yeah.
You know, and the hotbar slot, number 1 slot's got to be the pickaxe. Number 2's got to be the sword. Number 3's got to be the torches. 4's got to be the food. 5's got to be, you know, like the building source. I'm just saying, dude, like, that is like optimal Minecraft.
Yeah.
You can't tell me otherwise. Obviously, you know, stuff afterwards is, you know, interchangeable, or you can even move the building back farther for like an axe or something. You know, you could do something like that.
Yeah.
But, like, dude, I don't know why. Like, I've seen people have like building, like, wood in 1, sword in 2, torches in 3, like a bunch of other random shit in between, like pickaxe in 7, and I'm like, why? You use the pickaxe mostly. Why the fuck is it all the way at the end?
Yeah,
I know you can skip right to it.
Cause
it angers me. It frustrates me.
See, but I get that though, and like, I don't know, because for Minecraft, do you use AWSD to move?
Yes.
I mean, and I'm just testing it on my keyboard, having the, like, what would I do? It's like 1 through 4. I agree with you, having like the basically 1 through 4, having what you use the most be 1, second most 2. That kind of makes sense, because if you want something to be easily clickable, I don't know, like for you, but for me, when I'm in AWSD, it's very easy, or my muscle memory with my ring finger is I just go ahead and move that up, especially like with the shift and then hitting 1, 2, or 3. Because like I have those abilities in WoW, like the ones that I really need 1 through 4, because I can hit shift with my pinky and even come up with my index finger really quick and just hit whatever one I need. But like, this is one you said not OCD, but this kind of sounds a little OCD though, Soapy. Especially the Minecraft one, because like, how crucial to the game is it to have them not in that order?
Well, see, the reason it matters, and I don't know if this is just because like I play on like console Minecraft, so I can't just hit 7 and just jump right to the thing.
Yeah.
To where I have to sit here and hit the right bumper, or for PlayStation, it's like R2 or something like that, whatever you guys call your bumpers. Like, I have to do stuff like that, to where like every time I want to switch, I have to press the shit out of my button. Sadly, I thought it got picked up in my headset, but turns out it didn't. That's a oof.
No, I kind of hear it. I kind of hear it if you're hitting the little bumper.
Yeah, it's like I have to sit there and hit that, and I was like, okay. I'm like, I'm gonna add my pickaxe out most of the time because literally it's in the goddamn game's name, mine.
Yeah.
If you're mining and you're in a cave, there's probably monsters unless you're playing on peaceful like a big baby. So then you're gonna need your sword, which is then your second most important thing. Torches for lighting up the cave and the food because you get hungry in the game. Like, I'm just saying, dude, it gets optimal inventory. You can't tell me otherwise.
Good point.
Like, I don't know why. I guess it's like optimization of the or like the hot bar, I guess, is more or less what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Like, I mean, my pet peeve when it comes to aesthetic, like, it's not one of those, and yet again, when it comes to like the overlay of something, the only game that gets me like that is World of Warcraft. Is ever since I switched to, so when Dave and I played on the private servers that we played on, there was one of the people in our guild that was like, because I used to be a default user face guy, where it's like, I've got my whatever the Blizzard character health bar up top, the 9 buttons that they give you, or 9 spaces they give you down below for your buttons, and then have them all on the side of the screen, the bottom of the screen. And then one of them was like, yo, why don't you try this add-on called Bartender? And it basically you can put 3 rows as long as you want down below. And at first I thought I was going to hate it. And now it's like I judge you if you don't like have a custom like overlay for how your buttons are. Because I know there's some people, like there's some streamers that don't like the buttons even on there, where they're like, I just know where all my key bindings are, but on the screen it doesn't show any of the buttons. Where some people like having the buttons on there. But yeah, overlay to me is not something that I get really pet peevish about. The thing that I'm going to bring up, and this is, I'm swinging for the fences, Soapy. So like, I'm going to be honest, not judging your pet peeve, but if we were playing baseball, your first pet peeve, you were like, you know what, I'm just going to get on base. Hit that single. We're in the game. We're talking about pet peeves. I'm going for a double, triple, maybe even a home run with this one, Soapy. And one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to games, an MMO like World of Warcraft, a open adventure game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, even a story game like The Last of Us. No matter what game I am playing, I absolutely hate when a game wastes my time. And there might be people out there that go, Ricky, well, duh, nobody likes their time wasted. But there will be nothing that kills an enthusiast, like, there will be nothing that kills a drive for me to play your game than if you make me think or get me to feeling like you're wasting my time. And some people may say, well, how so? Each game is a little different. MMOs, if I basically have to do useless quests and useless actions just because it's like, well, we couldn't really think of anything for you to do useful here to get what you want to do. So, you know, we're just going to waste your time by repeating the same action over and over and over and over. That's part one. In a game like The Last of Us, if it's a story mode where it's like go through, if you're wasting my time by branching me off on an area that didn't need to be branched off on, just because you're like, I want to make this story a little bit longer, then try to give it a little bit more substance without giving it substance. And then if it's an open world like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where it's like, if you're going to make me travel from end to end of the map. And it's like the games that don't have fast travel really fucking kill me. It's like if you're going to have a big map like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you got to have a fast travel sequence somewhere, because especially with that game, I hated the boat, Soapy. I hated the boat. I hated the boat content. The less time I had to spend on that boat, the better. And it was perfect. They had a fast track thing, so I didn't feel like they wasted it. But like, that is the biggest thing with me in gaming, is if you're wasting my time, I don't want to go ahead and play your game.
See, I fall into a similar boat as well. Well, I mean, I guess pun intended there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
you mentioned boats.
My whole thing is more or less like with story games, of where it's.
Mm-hmm.
I hate when it feels like they'll be like in like the heat of the moment for a story, and it feels like you're about to hit like a crescendo of the story, and then next thing you know, it's just like, oh, let's just randomly derail everything we just built up to do this. I don't want to say like, oh, this is a spin-off of the pet peeve, but almost like an add-on, or at least for me, of where it's like, if you're building up suspense in the story, don't just suddenly like put like a full stop on it and then do something else. It's like, no, build into it.
Yeah.
Of like, unless there's like an actual good reason behind it. Over like, let's say like, oh, you're about to meet the fucking bad guy, but then just like, oh, they build it up, and then just like something happens where they don't show up. Like, okay, something like that, I'm okay with. But if I'm like 15 hours into like a 20-hour game and I haven't been introduced to the final villain yet, I'll just be like, all right, when the fuck's this guy gonna show up?
Because then you're like, why am I playing this game? Like, and like, there are things too, like you even said, but like the thing I think of is like, if the game is trying to get me and they're setting up from the beginning, like, hey, this is a mysterious kind of, like he or she is pulling the strings from behind the scenes, then okay, you've set that up to where it's like, I ain't gonna see this person for a long time, or this fucking thing, because it could be a monster or anything. I'm not gonna see them for a while. Cool, I set that up. But if they don't set it up, then it's like, stupid. You're fucking wasting my time. I mainly got this in my head today because I was watching a video about one of the YouTube channels I watch for WoW content, and I wanted to get an idea of their experience of Shadowlands, because they put out a video like I'm gonna put out about like the early thoughts of what I think of the expansion and stuff. And the thing they were kind of talking about BFA a little bit, and I don't have that reference point, because BFA, Battle for Azeroth, for the non-WoW players out there, that expansion did just that, where it's like, that's another thing too, where it's like, a pet peeve of mine is, this can go for a new game, this can go for a new expansion, like in an MMO setting, but like, for the MMO side, if you're going to hype up an expansion, and then, like, how do I want to put this? Because I know it's a tricky situation. Like, I'm going to use the WoW example, because that's kind of the realm I'm in. You come out with a new expansion, you don't want to give players too much to do, because then it feels like you're overloading some people. You obviously want to have a content schedule of like, okay, this is when stuff's going to come out. But at the same time, you want to give your players enough to do. Not too little, not too much. We're Goldilocks. We want that just right porridge. BFA for me was the not enough, where it was like, you get to 120, all right, I'm doing some dungeons, you do the dungeons, and it's like, they waited too long on the raid. It's like, okay, when's the raid gonna come out? Fuck, I gotta wait that long just to raid? It's like, I'm done. I've got my, like, I've done the dungeons. I've got my gear. I'm at level 120. What the fuck am I supposed to do with my time waiting for this raid? So, like, maybe this is, like, a separate one of, like, hey, don't waste my time. But, like, hey, if you're going to have a new game or a new expansion, don't make it, like, I guess having too much to do is not as bad as having too little to do. But still, it's not good to have too much to do if you're coming out with a new expansion, especially for a game like an MMO or even like Avengers that we haven't talked too highly upon when it came out just a couple months ago.
Yeah, and to kind of continue with that thought as well,
Mm-hmm.
of even in single player games of where like looter shooters, like you need end game content
Yeah.
because what was the point of me grinding for so many hours to get all this gear
Mm-hmm.
for absolutely nothing? Because I think that's my biggest complaint with Borderlands 3, and that's where like I don't really have this pet peeve. It's more or less of just kind of like like that's just kind of an annoying thing,
Mm-hmm.
but like it doesn't drive me up the wall.
Yeah.
Of like for instance, the problem I had with Borderlands 3, especially when it first came out, was like you could hit max level really quickly. You can
Mm-hmm.
get legendaries. You can get like you can get the perfect anointments on everything.
Yeah.
There was nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then they added like takedowns, which like takedowns are okay, but like they're so fucking easy at this point that there's no
Yeah.
challenge to them.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's like, "Hey, so when are we getting raid bosses? Because we kind of want these." And they're just like, "Cosmetic dog," and I'm like, "Come on, man!" But
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that really does kind of irk me, and especially with also kind of as well like steering it back to the original thing of like telling a story that doesn't need to be told.
Yeah.
That's kind of where like when we had our conversation about the Last of Us TV show,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of where I was coming from of like that ties into a gaming like peeve of mine of like
Mm-hmm.
I've already heard this. Stop telling me.
How many
Like,
times do I have to be told this part of the story?
yeah. Like for instance, like games like story-based games like Telltale, I can get because
Mm-hmm.
whenever they come out, there is like months in between the sections coming out. So it's like, okay, cool. Yes, I need a refresher in my head. I need to know what
Mm-hmm.
happened.
Yeah.
But like it's brief. It's not like, oh, hey, we're gonna give you an entire rundown of what happened in the last game. It's like, no, I don't want that.
Well, they like the thing Telltale was smart with is they treated it like a TV show where,
Yeah.
let's say, between episode 1 and 2, they didn't recap the entire previous episode.
They just hit the key points.
Yeah, the things that, not even just the key points, the things that you need to remember going into 2. To where it's like, all right, for this episode, we're going to call back off of these 3 moments. Let's remind them of these moments. Same things TV shows do, where it's like, hey, we're going to build off this that happened in a past episode. We're showing it to you again, just so you guys can get it in your mind, and it sets you up for what we're doing in this next episode.
Yeah, and stuff like that I'm A-okay with, but it's like, when you get to the point of where, and like obviously if it's a long running franchise, like for instance Final Fantasy doesn't really do it because like none of the games are connected to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But like let's say if every Final Fantasy game was connected to each other and they made a rundown for each of them, I don't want to watch a fucking movie
Yeah.
of like, oh, this is all the stuff that happened. It's like, okay, no, I don't need to know that.
Mm-hmm.
All I need to know is that, just give me the bullet points, basically give me the spark notes of it.
Yeah.
I guess if I had to say my next pet peeve.
Go ahead. What is it?
And I brought this once again. I brought this up before the show of where this is honestly kind of more of like, I'll even say like older games problem
Mm-hmm.
of story-based games having achievements and not setting them as secret. So like if you're looking through like, okay, like I want to 100% this game, I want to get all the achievements,
Mm-hmm.
and like let's say it's your first time playing through the game and you're looking through the achievements. And let's say, like, you haven't looked up anything about the game, you have no idea what's in it, and you see, like, oh, kill this character. It's like, or, like, learn of this guy's betrayal or something like that. It's like, okay, that's cool. I guess now I know that's happening.
Well, even by
basically, like it's spoiler achievements.
Even, like, the naming of them sometimes, to where it's like, they'll hide the description, but you'll still be able to see the name of the trophy, to where it's like, all right, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I think I now have an idea of what may happen.
Yeah. And I know people are going to use the point of, like, oh, Soapy, just don't look at the achievements till you beat the game. That's fair. But once again, what if there's something that I'm like, oh, like, as I go through the game, I want to know, is there achievements for reaching a certain amount of, like, let's say there's a collectible in the game.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, I'll use Shadow of War, for example. Like, Shadow of War, like, I think there's achievements for completing, like, Shelob's memories, like, collecting all the Gondorian artifacts.
Yeah.
And, for instance, stuff like that, of where, like, I want to see, like, okay, like, are there milestones for achievements for that? Like, is that something that I get rewarded for doing? Like, if I'm looking through it, like obviously I could probably assume with my fucking slightly above average intelligence head, I guess,
Depends.
that that's probably an achievement.
Is it a wrinkle brainy day or a smooth brainy day? Because sometimes I go through both of them as well.
Dude, I go through those in the same day. But
what kind of hour is it? Is more, or what kind of minute is it more like than day?
yeah, but like it's just more or less of like just if it has anything to do with the story, especially if it's a story-driven game, don't name the achievement. Just hide the achievement. Don't do stuff like that because especially with like Xbox has like a community tab.
Yeah.
Where you can scroll through and see like, oh, like someone recorded a clip and you can watch someone's recorded clip and everything.
Yeah.
And you'll see achievements. That's when it bothers me because like let's say someone's playing, I don't know, Cyberpunk or something like that. I'm gonna use an example. It hasn't actually come out yet, but like let's say someone was playing Cyberpunk and I'm looking through my community feed. I never fucking do because no one does anything because I don't want to watch people's clips because they're all stupid. But like, let's say I'm scrolling through and I see like, oh, kill Silverhand. I'm like, okay, cool. I guess that's a person I kill in the game.
PlayStation does the same thing where it's like, hey, this person played this game and got this trophy. It's like, thank you. I haven't played that game yet. On the flip side of that, though, because like I was talking to you before the show where it's like, and someone who plays PlayStation can correct me because for the most part, every story game that I've played on PlayStation, the actual campaign trophies have been hidden to where it's a black trophy. You don't know what type it is. And that's just question mark, question mark, question mark. So like for PlayStation, I necessarily don't have that complaint. The complaint I do have with trophies and achievements, Soapy, and I don't know if Xbox does this, but if it's something outside of the main story, side missions, or collectibles, if it's not one of those three things to where, let's say it's like something to where like, I know Assassin's Creed, one of the trophies was go to the highest point in Olympus. And like you basically, it was this one point, you go to the top of it, boom, you stand there, boom, you go ahead and get the achievement. If it's something like that, but they make it a hidden trophy to where it's like some of them I look up online because there are some games to where it's like I want to go ahead and find all the trophies like Spider-Man, Borderlands when I played it, Assassin's Creed. Like there are some games where I become a perfectionist with and I go, I want to go ahead and get all these trophies. I hate when it's like it's a hidden trophy and I look it up and I go, who thought that I would be able to figure that out? Like, unless it's like something to where it's like within one of those, like you got to make those hidden trophies. I don't even know. Should there even be hidden trophies or achievements? Like, I'm kind of on that side of like, I don't know. I'm not going to get into that conversation, but I will say if it's something really obscure, it shouldn't be a hidden trophy or achievement in my mind.
Yeah, and especially, with story-based stuff as well, like, you can have them be achievements, but I think those should be the only hidden achievement. Like, I don't have a problem with hidden achievements in general. I think it's more or less, though, it should be, like, only you can see them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of, like, if you buy the game and you're playing it, like, that's when it could be there, but even that, like, keep the campaign ones there. Of like, okay, those are hidden, but like if it's like optional side stuff of where, for instance, like with like I'll use Dark Souls for example, like 99% of the achievements in the game are secret, and by 99 I literally mean like every one of them. And and obviously you can look up guides of like, oh, these people got this achievement, like how do you get that if you want to 100% them. But like I think one of my biggest things with that as well of just like the secret just of achievements in general of where I feel like it should be once you beat a game, and obviously like this, I don't know if this is possible to program it like this or not.
Yeah.
Just have it once you beat a game that like the achievements like aren't secret to you anymore. Or like for instance, I was almost thinking like if you play like let's say you see someone playing a different game, like let's say I don't know, like someone's playing fucking like Hello Kitty Adventure World or something like that. I'm like, oh dude, I want to look at that game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it should be like all the achievements are secret to me because I haven't played it and they don't want to attempt to spoil anything or
Yeah.
something like that. But like, I don't know, it's just achievements and campaigns get me, and then
Mm-hmm.
kind of steering away from that as well. I fucking hate multiplayer achievements. Like, I'll just be real. Like, I hate them.
Depends. Like, if it's a game like Call of Duty, I could see it. Like, if it's a multiplayer game, I could see it. But, like, again, I almost feel like, and I know Dave says, like, in Twitch chat, hidden trophies or achievements are basically just Easter eggs from devs in a lot that I've seen. Or do you think it's just kind of obscure BS? Like, I don't know. There's a part of me that's like, for me, I'll be honest, whenever I'm going trophy hunting, I look up a guide. I look up okay, tell me what, like after I beat the game, because I'll beat the story first. After that, I'll go through and I'll look at each trophy and I'll be like, okay, what do I have to do? And if there's hidden trophies, I'll just go look them up because I'm not going to, yet again, back to my first pet peeve of, I'm not going to waste my time trying to figure out, what could this trophy be? No, I'm just going to fucking look it up. I know, like in Spider-Man, most of the hidden trophies there were story related, but they had things like go ahead and take a picture of Avengers Tower. That was not a hidden trophy. I think if it's something to where it's like fighting games are one that I think of to where it's like maybe you can have a hidden trophy that is something like, yet again, not something super obscure, but like maybe it's a certain combo or like, oh, defeating this many type of these enemies that kind of tick that kind of hidden achievement. Like maybe hidden achievements shouldn't be something that's like, if I have to go looking for it, it depends on, is it going to be easy to find? That's the first thing. If it's something that's easier to find, maybe I'm not super upset with it, but maybe hidden trophy should just be something to where it's like, hey, you're eventually going to get this. You're eventually going to get, if the more you play this game, like, let's say it's one of those where it's like, kill this type of enemy, like this many of this type of enemy. Well, you're eventually going to get it. It just is, how much time are you going to put into this game in order to get that trophy? But on the multiplayer side, yeah, I don't hate multiplayer trophies. I just hate when the multiplayer trophies are so obscure to where it's like, yeah, I'm not going to fucking play multiplayer just to do that. I'm going to play multiplayer to go play against people, like in a Call of Duty game. I'm just going to go play against people and fucking shoot some brains out.
Yeah, and my whole thing that just annoys me with them is they're never like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're never just like, oh, kill this many people or do this in an online game. It's like, oh, when you're playing on this map is this character at this specific time in the middle of the game. Go out of your fucking way to do this stupid thing. Like achievements like that are what pissed me off.
Uh-oh.
Okay, and to
Soapy's
play
cutting
against
in
other
or
people.
out.
Like I don't.
You cut in and out a little there,
Man.
big guy. So start your point. The last thing I heard you say was play this map with this certain character, and then everything after that was kind of choppy.
Okay. So yeah, it's basically like I'm playing multiplayer, and like the achievements are never like, oh, just get this many kills or something like that. And when they are, like, it's in a game that all you do is kill people. Like other games, their multiplayer, like, oh, play this map as this character, play at this time, go to this part of the map, and do this specific thing at this exact time. And where it's like, okay, one, what are the fucking odds of me being able to do that? Two, why the fuck would I ever do that? Three, and like it's just like the things keep stacking up where I'm just like, listen, I want 100% some games. Games and multiplayer achievements, not home dog. That ain't it.
Well,
I will avoid those.
So, like, I'm looking at the Call of Duty trophies for Modern Warfare, and some of the ones that I assume are multiplayer ones, because, like, you would do this in multiplayer, Like, for example, one that's called Ashes to Ashes. Burn 4 enemies with a single Molotov. That would be an okay one for me because it's like, okay, if I'm realistically using a Molotov cocktail, like, the point of me doing that is I'm trying to kill more than just one person. I know there was like some Overwatch ones where it was like the ones that were the ultimate ability, like kill this many people with a Reaper ultimate. Like, I'm fine with that one for multiplayer. Now I know Overwatch is just multiplayer, so there's that too. But like, I'm fine with that. It's just like the one that then is Wildfire. Take down a flying helicopter with a Molotov. When have I ever realistically thrown a Molotov cocktail at a helicopter? Never. I've either shot it with my gun, or I've taken out my RPG and I shot that fucking bird down. Or I tried to, and then it basically has the defense mechanism where the rocket like flies off to the side, and I go, damn it. Guess I'm not getting that getting that birdie landing anytime soon. Like, am I wrong for thinking that? Like, how many times have you looked at a helicopter in a Call of Duty game and go, you know what's perfect for this situation? A Molotov cocktail.
Yeah, like, those are the types of achievements where I'm like, okay, like, that's just the shit of, like, if I'm just sitting around, fucking around in multiplayer,
Yeah.
I would attempt those. But, like, on an average everyday basis, I'm not gonna be like, oh man, dude, it's time to achievement hunt. I guess I gotta wait for someone to call in a helicopter.
Yeah.
And let me throw a fucking Molotov at it. Like,
it's very
that's
situational.
Yeah. And as well as where the fact of, like, if you're going against good players, that becomes really fucking hard to do. Because, like, those good players are going to be actually shitting on you the whole time. That's what I hate about it.
Yeah.
If it's a game like Avengers, of where it's like, oh, play in a party of 4, it's like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, you can get achievements like that.
Well, that's why I feel like the multiplayer trophies and achievements, they should be those should be the ones where it's basically like, if you're gonna get these, they're easy to get. It's just gonna be, are you gonna play the multiplayer enough to get it? Like, for example, Call of Duty, kind of like what we saw before trophies were a thing, when it was like you had to get this many headshots to unlock this skin for it. Make that a trophy. This many kills to unlock this. Like, make each one of those tiers, make those trophies, because then it's like, okay, I can still get these trophies. It's just a matter of, I don't have to have a certain, like, situation to do it. I just have to use the fucking weapon. Like, maybe you even go even more sub than that, than, like, not the specific gun, but, like, oh, just with assault rifles, with submachine guns, with shotguns, because then you're not narrowing it down to one specific gun. They can, like, oh, you want the shotgun one? Use whatever shotgun you fucking like.
Yeah. And it's more or less of just, I just hate multiplayer achievements, especially, like, if I'm going through and playing game, like, obviously I wouldn't play fucking Avengers, that game's garbage.
Yeah.
But, like, game multiplayer scene doesn't really exist anymore, like, and obviously, that's kind of the thing of where, if you're going to achievement hunt, look into stuff like that of, like, oh, like, does this game have multiplayer achievements? Do people still play the multiplayer? Stuff like that. Like, obviously, that's where, like, the more, like, hey, dum don't play a dead game, an achievement hunt sort of situation comes in. But,
yeah,
like, for instance, I think it's Shadow of War has fucking multiplayer achievements, and it's like, why the fuck would I do that? The multiplayer sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it's just kind of dumb to me. But I'm trying to think of another example as well of just if there's any other pet peeve that kind of annoys me. I guess
So do you not have any more? Because I've got one more.
I have one more, but you can give yours since we kind of piggybacked off of, like, two of mine.
So with my last one, there's kind of a caveat to it. And actually, before I give it, I just want to look something up really quick. Let's see. Can I fucking find my trophy list?
How's everyone doing out there? I'm gonna keep you guys entertained
I'm
while
not going to fucking... Okay, I won't be able to find it. That's something I should have had zoned up if I knew we were going to have this conversation. But my last pet peeve, yet again, I'm going back to the MMO sphere. I'm going back to World of Warcraft. And the caveat that I need to say before I say the pet peeve is I understand there are different players for a game like World of Warcraft. You have your hardcores that are going to come in and it's going to be like, all right. So, for example, Shadowlands dropped on Monday. You're going to have your hardcores that are like, okay, I want to hit 60 as soon as possible. I want to get 2 heroics as soon as possible. I want to get to mythics as soon as possible and make sure that I'm all geared up, ready to go for the raid on December 8th. You're fine with that. I realize on the other end, there are the casuals. I'm only going to play this when I have time. I'll hit 60 when I get there. When I hit 60, yes, I want to enjoy the end game. I want to get the gear, but I'm not going to be like super hardcore and basically grind everything super fast. I'm going to go at my own pace. I understand there are those characters also, but there's a part of me, and this kind of comes into the Soapy when I asked you about pet peeves. I was like, well, this one doesn't have to deal with the game itself. It has to deal with people that play the game. And the reason why I am bringing this up is Dave and I, on our private server, dealt with somebody like this. To where it's like, if you're going to join a guild, then usually it's you join a guild and then you start raiding with that guild. And wow, if you're going to be a casual type of player, don't join a guild that is semi-hardcore or hardcore, because the thing that really grinds my gears in games like this is people that come in, because like when you raid, it's usually like either 10, 25 man, and it's like, okay, we're a team. We're coming into this raid as a team, and we are only as strong as our weakest link. So like, if you're going to be a tank and not come in with everything you need, you're hurting the team. If you're going to be a healer and not coming in with everything you need, you're hurting the team. Hell, you might be one of, let's see, in a 10-man, 2 tanks, 2 healers usually, so you might be one of 6 DPS, one of 5 or 6 DPS. If you're not coming in with exactly everything you need, you are hurting the team. And like, Dave and I dealt with somebody who was in our guild, who our goal, and the guild kind of had this goal of, hey, we want to try to push as much content as we can. We want to get to the content because, like, for me, I hadn't experienced anything past the, like, opening raid because I was more of a casual when I was a kid in high school. I wasn't a super hardcore one like Dave was in the BC days. And there are certain things that you have to sometimes do, especially like we were playing older expansions, so it's a little bit different than the newer ones. But like, for example, we were on Wrath of the Lich King. You got to have your shit gemmed. You got to have enchants on that. You have to have your consumables that you're going to need for the raid. And it irks me when people want to be a part of that raiding team. And yet again, don't try. Don't, like, blatantly don't even try to do what you're supposed to do. And second off, because this person, I know Dave might come out and go, well, Ricky, this person was new to the game as well. If you're new to the game, I'm okay with that. If you're going to join a semi to hardcore raiding guild, I need to at least see effort in you, that you're trying to learn what we're doing. Because, like, yet again, this example that experienced over the summer was, there's the one guy in our raiding group. We did everything for him. Hey, we got this gear for you. Get, like, all you gotta do is get these gems. We told him what gems they are. Get these enchants. We told him what they are. Hey, basically all you gotta do is come to me. I was the jewel crafter. Come to the other guy. He was the enchanter. We'll even do it for you. Did he do it, Soapy?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. And that's something to me where it's like, yes, I am saying the caveat again. I know there are casuals. I am not saying it is bad to be a casual. But if you are going to be a casual, find a guild that caters to you. Don't join the semi-hardcore, the hardcore rating group, and kind of bring that down, because there will be some groups, some guilds that go, fuck it, you're not. And we got to that point. We're like, fuck it, we're not bringing him anymore, because it was just a waste of time to bring him each and every week. That is a pet peeve for me in World of Warcraft. My rant is over.
Yeah, and I mean, and I can see that as well. I've always been more of like a casual person with MMOs, though. Like, for instance, when you guys tried to get me to play on the private server, literally, I only would play when you guys were playing. I think I played like one time by myself, and even at that, I was just like, I got like one mission ahead, and I'm like, man, I don't really want to do this. So like, you know, I'm kind of on the opposite side. Not so much of like, oh, you know, like, you have a point of like, if you're going to take the game casually and you don't want to grind the stuff out, you know, don't join the people who like are going to take the game as serious. Of like, you can find like more like new player friendly or more casual player friendly, because and to kind of take it away from video games and more over to like tabletop stuff. I say the same thing with D&D as well, of where, for instance, Roll20, the website we used for our campaign, you can use the find game feature, and there are games that have like welcomes new players, and there's ones that say experienced players only.
Yeah.
If you're a player that like you're kind of iffy on being in there, don't go into the ones that are like, oh, experienced players, because those are people who have played since like fucking second edition.
Yeah.
And they're the people who are like, no, we don't have time to sit down and explain things to you. Like, we expect you to know what you're doing. Stuff like that. While the new player-friendly ones are like, hey, we're open to teaching you. Over, obviously, also a lot of, like, the new player-friendly ones as well. They do kind of expect you to have some knowledge of the game.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'll spin it off a little bit. Like, this isn't my actual pet peeve, but it's kind of like one that got brought up in this conversation. And this relates more to tabletop because my other one does as well, of having a like understanding the basics before you dive like headfirst into something. Or obviously, you know, this is the one I'm going to get shit for, because there are people who do get very mad about it. Of like, I use the example of D&D, you know, of where you don't have to go into D&D knowing the rules. Because, for instance, I went to D&D not knowing jack diddly shit about it.
Ditto.
Besides that, you rolled dice.
Yeah.
But my whole thing was like, I was attentive. I paid attention. Like, even on my own time, I read through the rules. I tried to learn what my class does. Where I know when we were setting up our campaign, I even told you guys, I'm like, hey, listen, I want you guys to learn your class because I don't want to play your character for you. And obviously, you know, the campaign didn't last too long, but it was something that, you know, once you guys learned your characters, like, it started moving more freely. Like, it started picking up pace. You know, we started getting into a groove. That's kind of the thing of where it's at least put the effort in.
Yeah.
Before, or like understand, like, if you're going to dive into something like that, kind of, especially if you're doing it in an online setting as well, understand how your character works and understand how features in the game work. So it's not like, oh, you're bogging down the entire group because you don't understand what this does.
Well, I mean, and everything you're saying, I'm thinking to myself going, you're basically describing the rating portion of WoW, because like, it's a little bit different now. We're like back in the day, and I'm thinking like BC Wrath days. So like, think circa 2008 and I think 2010. It was a little different where like, they didn't have the adventurer's guide in the game. So it's like, if I wanted to read up on a fight, let's say I was doing Karazhan with my guild this week, I had to go find the website, like basically just type in Karazhan guide, and I would either have to read through a guide on the internet or watch a YouTube video of like, okay, this is somebody who has actually done it. Like, I think prep work is the biggest thing that is a pet peeve of me when it comes to games, especially like an MMO like World of Warcraft, because it's like, if it's something to where, like, when you describing D&D, it was the same thing. Like, you talk about getting to know your character in D&D so that the DM doesn't have to constantly be like, this is how you play your character, this is how you play your character, this is how you play your character. Now on the other side, questions are different. If you're like, hey, I don't understand this, can you explain it to me? That is different. That is showing you're being attentive.
Oh, yeah.
You want to learn about it. Like Dave says, prep work and game knowledge can be like, it can be intimidating, but like, there's a part of me that thinks, and this is a conversation for a different day. Hell, maybe next Monday we get into this conversation, Soapy. Are there some games where you cannot be a casual to experience everything in it? Like, I kind of feel like there are some games to where it's like, being a casual, you're not going to get the most out of it if you're all the way to that side. And like, World of Warcraft is one of those, because I'll be honest, like, I think of raiding, and yet again, WoW, you can play different things. There's PvP, there's dungeons, there's raiding. I know, like, with you, when you said like, oh, well, I don't like playing without you guys on, I'll be honest, I don't like that either. Like, I play World of Warcraft to play with friends. I am lucky enough to have different people. And of course, Dave and I made friends on the private server that I still play retail with now. So like, for example, if Dave's not online, I don't have to be like, well, shucks, Dave's not online, I'm playing alone. I've got other people with. Or it's like, you join a guild and it's like, okay, well, my best bud's not on, but there are people from the guild on, and I'm still playing with people. Because the reason why you play a game like D&D, why you play a MMO, I would say in my mind, is I'm not just playing the game, I'm playing the game for the community. And kind of to go back to the casual thing that I was looking at, is I kind of feel like World of Warcraft, you're like, I feel like I don't want to say you can't, but I feel like being a casual and raiding don't go hand in hand, because most people don't want to sit there. Usually most guilds I've been in, it's like, okay, we're going to raid from this time to this time. Usually it's like a 3-hour time slot. If it's a hardcore, hey, we're going to go 4 hours. And most people want to get through the content in the game, and it can be draining if you have a mix of people that are on one side of like, hey, I'm going to do my prep and have that game knowledge, which I do agree with Dave, can be intimidating to some people. And then there's a mix of people that are like, well, I'm just here because I wanted to show up to raiding. Like, that to me is a aspect of the game that I feel like you have to do your prep work. You have to have some knowledge of. However, on the other side, I'll never be mad at you if it's where you're asking questions, where it's like, okay, if I can tell you have a base for everything, you're trying your hardest, you're asking questions because you want to get better, I'm okay with that. It's the blatant, like, I can tell you don't give a shit, you're not trying, because you're bringing everyone else down. And like, it's a tricky situation yet again. Maybe next week, next Monday, we get into the whole casuals in gaming, and like, what games can you be a casual in? Other games, is it possible to be casual in? But that's what I thought of from what you were saying. And you were even talking about D&D. We weren't even talking about WoW.
Yeah, and I think we definitely should do that as a topic for next week, because that does lead into a lot of good conversations. And just to kind of transition into the final thing, just so this isn't like a super long show.
Yeah, you're good. We're at about 54 minutes right now, so we're good. A little bit longer, but we'll wrap it up in a little bit.
Okay, so moving into my final thing, and this once again kind of stays more with the tabletop side.
Yeah.
And this is something I hammer home every time when I play D&D, and I stand by it. It is the thing I will preach until the day I fucking die. Have proper table etiquette. Like, that's it. It's like, I don't care if like you're new to the game. I don't care if you're like a 14-year veteran of D&D. If you're an asshole at the table, I don't want you there.
You mean
Like,
personality-wise, or like keep your area clean? Like,
so table etiquette is basically like, for instance, don't talk over people. Don't, like, it's basically be like a good person, more or less, at the table. Of like, I view table etiquette is like, if, like, let's say you have experienced players and a new player. Don't berate the new player because they don't know what they're doing.
exactly.
Like, well, obviously, like, offer constructive criticism.
That's any game, though. You don't want to do that.
Yeah. But with table etiquette, it really matters because it's one of those things that D&D can be very stressful for people to get into. Because when you start throwing stuff at people, like, oh, you want to play this? All right, what subclass are you playing? Do you know what your subclass does? What's the role of your class? If you're playing a spellcaster, what do your spells do? What type of spells? Bonus actions, actions, reactions, legendary actions for creatures, like stuff like that. It's very intimidating, and it's one of those things that kind of table etiquette is basically, like, don't speak over people, don't, like, be, like, respectful. Like, it's one of the main things, and this is something that obviously it's harder to do over online.
Yeah.
Is if the DM is speaking, don't speak over the DM. And it's kind of, and I know, like, that sounds like a oh, DM's big man here. The only thing is, it's also
now
the DM's telling you the story, and it comes off as disrespectful if, like, let's say I'm telling a story and you and like Demon are having a conversation over me, or like someone is talking and like someone's speaking over it. Like, it comes off as disrespectful to other people. But then it's also like, if you're in an RP moment of where, like, let's say, like, oh, when you went to Al's Alchemy, let's say if, like, oh, Dave and Sean were having a conversation or something, like, at that point, I mean, honestly, if that happened, I would have just server muted people.
Which, Soapy, I gotta say, I'm contractually obligated. Al's Alchemy, best in the land, man. Like, if you need anything, potion-wise, mana-wise, you gotta go to Al's Alchemy. Al's your guy. So contractually, I have to throw that in there. Sponsored by Al's Alchemy.
Yeah, and it's basically just, being a good person at the table, and as well of, and also, like, table etiquette also extends to the new player as well. Of, and it sounds weird to say, or like with the table etiquette of, like, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
Of, that's the most important thing in D&D. Of where, if you don't understand something. Of where, don't just do something and then when you're told by the DM, like, no, you can't do that, just, like, sit there and pout and be like, well, fine, fuck it, I didn't want to do this anyways.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things
kind of don't be toxic.
Yeah. That's mainly what table etiquette is, of just understanding that, you're all here as friends. It's just a game. Like, obviously, for instance, you have people who metagame and they're like, oh, well, my character's going to move here because then we have advantage. Obviously, it's a DM. Sometimes it annoys me. I'm like, hey, your character wouldn't know that because your character doesn't experience combat, stuff like that. Yeah. Most of the time, I let it go because I don't really care.
Yeah. The one question I have, though, and this goes with the interrupting thing, is it okay in an RP setting, though, if, like, obviously you don't want to do it too much, but it's like, hey, you know what? The character that I'm playing is kind of braggadocious, or this character is kind of an asshole-ish character. So it's like, hey, in RP, I'm going to pick and choose my spots to where my character may interrupt you while you're talking because maybe that's the type of character I'm playing.
Yeah, and that's something more or less of, like, asking DMs and stuff like that, and asking players if they're comfortable with that. Because, for instance, because that's also one of the things with table etiquette, too, that I hammer home so much. And this is mostly for, like, new DMs or, like, even DMs who, like, have never really asked this question. Ask your players what they are comfortable with. Because you do not want a situation of where, let's say, for instance, we're, like, let's say you're talking about, like, oh, a small town's been raided by bandits. If people don't like the word rape, you probably shouldn't bring it up. Probably just got us demonetized and stuff like that. But
I don't say it anymore. We don't want to get demonetized. They may shut us down. It's a copyright strike.
Yeah, I was going to say R word and pillage.
Oh
you know,
man, what's a word we can use for that? That is like our code word for
defile and
that.
pillage.
Defile. I was gonna be like something completely unrelated to the word at all, but defile works. Defile and pillage.
Yeah, if someone's out here defiling and pillaging, and someone doesn't like the alternate word for defile.
There was a part of me that's like, should we call it rave and pillage? They're raving and pillaging.
Well, yeah, I mean,
or then
I don't know if the alternative.
Yeah, then the rave community's gonna get mad at us, like, yo, man, why are you fucking putting that on us? But that's besides the point.
Yeah, it's that I say always goes with as well of like running that by your players, making sure they're comfortable with everything. Because like I said, you don't want defile and pillage to come up, and then a person is just completely uncomfortable with the idea that happened.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are times where like, there are different settings in D&D, and that could be something we talk about later down the line.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a great. Like, I asked you, Soapy, before this was before we did this. One of my concerns was like, okay, are we going to be able to fill a 40 to 50 minute show with this topic? And we've been talking for a little bit over an hour right now. So, Soapy, this has been a raving success. Mold Breaker Mondays, they're going to be a thing here on MVP Games Live. The choo-choo, the train, the conductor loves it. He's like, choo-choo, get on the Mold Breaker train. Because we're going to start doing these every Monday. And next week, we've already got our topic locked down. We'll do part 2 of this, where we'll break off into the casuals discussion and kind of talk about being a casual in gaming and like, basically, is it possible? What games is it impossible to do it in? And stuff like that. Obviously, if there's ever anything that you guys want us to talk about, leave it down below in the description.
Comments.
In the comments, thank you, comments. Because what we'll probably do, and it'll probably be twofold, is obviously patreon.com/MVPvids. Each and every month, we have the reader mail portion. So if you want to suggest something for the show, the silver and above tier, you can go ahead and get that, and we'll for sure talk about it. But maybe there's something to where we do if we get a lot of comments of like, hey, you guys should talk about this, you guys should talk about that. Maybe what we'll do is, hey, we'll compile stuff from the comments, and then basically it's like, okay, we have these 4 topics. The patrons then will get to vote on which one of the ones from the comments we'll get to talk about. So if you want to suggest something, suggest it down below in the comments. If you want to make for sure that we talk about something that you want to talk about, silver and above tier, patreon.com/MVPvids is how you go ahead and do that. Remember, if you have not joined it already, the best community on the internet is open. The MVP Discord, the links down below in the description, or !Discord in the Twitch chat gets you that link. We are on Twitch every Monday through Friday, twitch.tv/MVPvids. We're also on YouTube at MVP Entertainment, so go ahead and like and sub at both places. Follow. Do everything you got to do to make sure you never miss anything from MVP. For those you on Twitch, Dave and I will be coming up next with a very, very good MVP Sports Live coming up for you guys. But for everyone, for the gaming sphere, Soapy and I will be back we'll be back tomorrow. Fuck, not next week. No, Soapy, we're not doing that. That's in Twitch chat. We don't have an OnlyFans here on MVP. I don't think anyone wants to see that content from me. So no, we don't have a OnlyFans. So !OnlyFans will not work. You know what, Dave? If you want to get the OnlyFans going, I'll let you run the OnlyFans, Dave. I'll let you run it because I don't know if anyone wants to see me on OnlyFans content. But that's going to do it for Games Live. Sports Live is coming up next, but as always, have a good day, everybody.
Bye.